Susan's heart pounded in her chest as she and her granddaughter Lily eased their minivan into the familiar suburban driveway just outside Portland. Lily, normally eager to dash toward the front door and rummage through her toy bins, froze mid-stride, her tiny hand gripping Susan's with a strength that belied her 6 years. "Grandma," Lily whispered, her voice trembling. "Look up there." Susan followed her gaze to the third-floor window, her own bedroom, and felt a chill spread through her. Behind the floral curtain, the silhouette of a man stood, motionless, as though he had every right to be there. In that instant, every ounce of security Susan had built for Lily, the cozy routines, the late-night stories, the promise of safety, felt violently shattered. She gently guided Lily back toward the car, her fingers fumbling for her phone as adrenaline flooded her veins. Calling 911, she clenched the receiver, hands shaking so fiercely she feared dropping it. Only her younger sister Emily had a key to the townhouse, but Emily never stayed overnight, and certainly not without warning. Lily pressed close, her imagination a world of moonlit adventures and talking teddy bears, momentarily stilled by fear. Susan's mind raced. How had a stranger sneaked into their home? And why would Emily, whose carelessness she had long worried about, leave Lily alone with someone she barely knew? As police sirens wailed in the distance, Susan vowed that nothing, no job, no request would ever come between her and Lily's safety again. From that moment onward, every creak in the floorboard and flicker of a hallway light would serve as a reminder. The line between trust and betrayal can be thinner than we ever imagine. When Susan tugged Lily's hand and followed her gaze up to the third-floor window, she felt her heart drop into her stomach. The silhouette of a man stood just behind the bedroom curtain, motionless and eerily calm. In that instant, everything Susan had believed about safety and family unraveled. Only Emily, her younger sister, possessed a key to their 2-story townhouse on the outskirts of Portland, but Emily was nowhere in sight. As police sirens wailed in the distance, Susan understood, with gut-wrenching clarity, that the only person who could have invited this unknown man inside was the one she had trusted most, Emily. The betrayal cut deeper than fear. Susan's hands trembled as she dialed 911 from the sidewalk, every second a reminder that her 6-year-old daughter Lily had been sleeping upstairs with a stranger hidden in the closet. In response to her whispered question about who had access to the home, Susan admitted softly to the dispatcher, "Only my sister, Emily. But she's not answering my calls." She wondered if Emily had thought it harmless to offer just a night's refuge to someone in need, but the reality was far more horrifying. Someone had preyed on her goodwill and endangered her child. Standing behind the patrol cars, Susan watched the officers move in tactically, one officer entering through the front door, flashlight in hand, while the other secured the back entrance. She felt paralyzed, pounding heart and shallow breaths making her wonder if Lily was even safe enough to try to stand. The last she had seen of her daughter, Lily had squeezed Susan's hand so tightly that her knuckles were white, a fearful plea for protection that resonated in Susan's bones. Moments later, the officer emerged, his expression grim. He explained that the man he had found was in his mid-30s, disheveled and unarmed, hiding in Susan's bedroom closet. According to the detaining officer, the man, whose name was unknown and who carried no identification, repeated the same story over and over. She said it was okay. She said I could stay until she got back. Susan's breath caught. She could only be Emily. Susan felt bile rise in her throat at the thought that her sister had invited a perfect stranger into their home, given him food, and allowed him to sleep in the very room where her daughter had been tucked in for the night. As the officer led the man, surprisingly calm and almost sheepish, into the patrol car, Susan's mind raced. How could Emily, who shared so many childhood memories with her, have been so reckless just 24 hours earlier? Emily had sent a photo of Lily curled up in a blanket fort, smiling at Emily's playful antics. Emily had reassured Susan that she knew exactly what to do. She'd make macaroni and cheese, pop on a movie, and tuck Lily into bed by 9 o'clock. Emily had rolled her eyes when Susan handed her a printed list of emergency numbers, showed her how to set the home alarm, and reminded her that no visitors were allowed. Emily had promised to follow every instruction. Yet here they were, frozen on the curb, with Lily clinging to Susan's leg, too frightened to even step toward the front door. Susan felt her chest tighten at the thought of all the what-ifs that had haunted her since that moment. What if Lily had woken up and headed downstairs for a glass of water? What if the man had decided to check on her? What if Susan had delayed her flight back from the Seattle presentation by a few hours? The police said the man had a history of trespassing and psychiatric evaluations, but no record of violence. It didn't matter. Intent wasn't enough to erase the danger he represented. When the officers finished questioning Susan and took the trespasser away, she saw Lily being led across the street to wait with their neighbor, Mrs. Delgado. Lily's little frame shook as she hugged Mrs. Delgado's leg, and Susan's heart broke for her. She knelt down, brushing a stray curl from Lily's forehead. "You did exactly what you were supposed to do," Susan whispered. Lily nodded, voice trembling. "He scared me. Grandma, I saw him come downstairs." That admission shattered something inside Susan. She had entrusted Emily with her daughter's life, and Emily had chosen to help a stranger over keeping Lily safe. In the aftermath, Susan changed every lock in the house, installed a motion-activated light by Lily's window, and set up a new security system. When Emily finally called apologizing, while her voice trembled with faux sincerity, Susan listened without speaking. Emily tried to justify her actions, claiming compassion for a homeless man who needed shelter. To Susan, however, it was a choice she could not forgive. A 6-year-old girl had been left alone with someone who might have harmed her, and Emily had not understood how serious that was. Susan ended the call with a quiet finality. She would no longer allow Emily near their home or her granddaughter. Family ties were not enough to ensure safety. As she gathered Lily into her arms and walked back inside, Susan vowed that never again would a single moment of misguided compassion threaten the most precious thing in her life. The betrayal had been profound, but even more powerful was the lesson it imparted when it comes to protecting the ones we love. Trust must be earned every day, and some lines must never be crossed. Susan Reynolds is a 34-year-old single mother who has spent the past 2 years building a life of quiet stability for her 6-year-old daughter, Lily, in a modest 2-story townhouse just outside Portland, Oregon. The house, about 1,200 square feet, sits on a quiet street where neighbors walk their dogs in the early morning chill and retirees tend to their flower beds on warm afternoons. Since her ex-husband moved to Denver 2 years ago, Susan has been the sole provider for Lily, working long hours from her home office as a remote marketing consultant. It isn't the glamorous, freewheeling work she had imagined when she left college, loading her dorm car with textbooks and dreams of traveling the world, but rather a juggling act of client calls, email campaigns, and slide deck presentations squeezed in between tuna fish sandwiches and hand-drawn princess crowns. Some days, she sits at her oak desk by the bay window at 6:30 a.m., sipping black coffee while Lily builds a blanket fort on the living room floor. And by noon, she's wearing sweatpants again, rushing to assemble peanut butter and jelly sandwiches before Lily's kindergarten bus arrives. Her workload as a marketing consultant sounds flexible work from anywhere, but the reality is that flexibility has a price: no predictable schedule. She often finds herself logging in dark circles under her eyes, the blue glow from her laptop screen illuminating her face as the house sleeps. On a typical afternoon, while Lily colors pictures of unicorns and the moon, Susan drafts social media posts promoting local artisan coffee shops, tweaks keywords for a small boutique's website, or prepares a digital newsletter for a Portland area nonprofit. When Lily naps, Susan reviews her calendar a check-in call with a Seattle-based client at 2:00 p.m., a deadline for press releases by 4:00, and a proposal due on Monday for a new brewery in Eugene, roughly 110 miles away. Although she works from home, she rarely takes time off. The utility bills, electricity, gas, internet run around $300 each month, and groceries for two average $150 per week. She has little time for herself, no dating life, and even her weekly yoga class at the neighborhood studio gets skipped more often than not. Yet, Susan cherishes every moment with Lily, knowing that Lily's wide-eyed wonder at simple things like naming every cloud by shape, that one's a dragon, gives her purpose. Every morning, before Lily heads off to school, Susan ties her daughter's sneakers and reminds her to wear a light jacket, because the mornings in Portland can feel like fall, even in June. They share a quick breakfast of scrambled eggs and toast. And then Lily hops on her bright yellow bike to ride down the half-mile sidewalk to Westview Elementary School, waving back at Susan through the window. If it's raining common in this region, Susan will walk with Lily under a pink umbrella for protection, carrying Lily's backpack in one hand and her own laptop bag in the other. On most days, Susan keeps the thermostat at 68 degrees C in the winter and 75 degrees in the summer to keep utility costs down and maintain a comfortable environment for Lily, whose sleep routine depends on consistency. Her evenings are a delicate balance. She tucks Lily into bed at 7:30 p.m. with a bedtime story and a kiss on the forehead, then creeps back to her home office to answer client emails before 9:00 p.m. She often falls asleep at her desk, waking with a start, realizing she's missed the call she was meant to join or forgotten a campaign she was supposed to launch. The stress, she admits, can be overwhelming. There's no partner to share the load, no backup plan if her internet goes down or her computer crashes. Despite all this, Susan wouldn't trade her life for anything because every dollar she earns pays for Lily's piano lessons, summer soccer camp, and the occasional treat at the ice cream parlor down the street. She has turned their living room into a cozy sanctuary, with a soft cream-colored sofa, a bookshelf filled with Disney classics, and a corner dedicated to Lily's stuffed animals, 24 or so friends that Lily insists each has its own bedtime. Susan meticulously cleans up after them each evening, washing dishes, wiping down countertops, and straightening throw pillows, all to create a sense of order that Lily craves. She believes that stability is the greatest gift she can give her daughter, knowing that when Lily wakes up, breakfast will be waiting, artwork will line the fridge, and a safe home will protect her. 2 months ago, Susan's tightrope act nearly broke when her team at work landed a high-stakes pitch for a national retailer headquartered in Seattle. They wanted Susan to present in person at the company's 5-story office, roughly a 170-mile drive north. It wasn't just important for her livelihood, it was crucial for the long-term security of both her and Lily. She dreads being away from Lily even for a few hours, let alone overnight. Still, she agreed reluctantly after 2 weeks of negotiation, partly because the client offered to reimburse her for travel expenses. She discussed leaving Lily for one night with her younger sister Emily, who lives about 10 miles away in downtown Portland. Emily is 28, free-spirited, and has never held a steady job for more than a year. She loves music festivals, impromptu road trips, and living in the moment, whereas Susan lives for routines, budgets, and safety. When Emily hopped on the phone, waving off Susan's detailed instructions, show me how to set the home alarm, leave a list of emergency contacts, limit visitors to 0. Emily reassured her with a breezy, "Don't worry. Sus. I've got this." She'd sent Susan a photo the night before Lily wrapped in a fleece blanket inside a makeshift pillow fort, grinning from ear to ear. That smile temporarily eased Susan's worry, Emily promised Lily macaroni and cheese, a Disney movie, and lights out by 9:00 p.m., a wild night, she joked. Susan packed her navy blue suitcase, kissed Lily's forehead, and backed out of the driveway, telling Lily she'd be back by the next evening. As the engine faded, Susan reminded herself that this one night away was for their future, so she could continue providing piano lessons and soccer camp tickets. So she could continue building a life where Lily never worries about food, safety, or stability. Yet, beneath her resolve lay a flicker of unease that she couldn't fully shake, even as her car merged onto Interstate 5 toward Seattle. When Susan stepped off the freeway and turned onto her street, she felt a flutter of anticipation. Soon she would be reunited with Lily, and they would settle back into their comforting routine. She had picked up a dozen fresh blueberry muffins from the little bakery around the corner, Lily's favorite, and imagined her daughter's face lighting up as she sank her teeth into the warm pastry. It was late afternoon on a crisp spring day, the sun hanging low over the neighborhood. Everything seemed perfectly ordinary, budding dogwood trees lining the sidewalks, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of freshly mown grass, instead of the familiar sight of her daughter bounding toward the car. Though, Susan spotted Lily sitting alone on the curb next to their neighbor, Mrs. Delgado. The older woman stood with her arms folded, wearing a worried expression, as if bracing for bad news. Susan's heart skipped a beat. She set her tote bag heavy with work files, her laptop slung over one shoulder on the grass, and made her way across the street. Lily didn't move until Susan was almost at her side, then bolted into her arms, clinging to her like she hadn't seen her mother in weeks. Susan knelt, brushing back Lily's dark curls. What happened? "Sweetie?" she asked quietly, scanning their quiet cul-de-sac for any sign of Emily's car. There was none. Lily lifted her tear-stained face. "Mommy, I was too scared to go inside," she whispered, her voice small. "He was up there." When Susan looked up toward the third-floor window, her own bedroom, she felt a surge of panic. Behind the pale floral curtain hung limp. A silhouette hovered just inside. A man stood perfectly still, as though he belonged there, watching them. Susan's throat went dry, her pulse racing. She slid an arm around Lily and took a shaky step backward. "What do you see?" Lily Mrs. Delgado asked gently, stepping closer and laying a reassuring hand on Susan's shoulder. Susan shook her head, unable to speak. She signaled to Mrs. Delgado, "Keep Lily with you," and pulled a trembling cell phone from her pocket. She dialed 911 in a voice that felt too loud in the stillness. Within minutes, the low hum of sirens approached. 2 patrol cars pulled to a halt in front of Susan's home. The officers spilled out, moving quickly but cautiously, one toward the back of the house, the other to the front entrance. Susan remained on the sidewalk, Lily wrapped tightly against her side, refusing to let go. Every second felt like an eternity as she watched police flashlights scan the windows and doors. Her mind raced. Emily was supposed to be in charge. Emily had said she'd be careful, that she knew the home alarm code, that she'd send Susan reassuring updates. But there had been no messages, no calls, no replies to her frantic texts. The front door creaked open, and an officer motioned for Susan to stay behind the line. The house's interior was cloaked in shadows, the only light coming from the officers' strobes and flashlights. Their boots clicked on the hardwood floor as they advanced, flashlights cutting through the darkness. Susan gripped Lily's hand tighter, willing her daughter to stay calm. She thought back to the photo Emily had sent the day before, Lily sprawled in a fortress of pillows, grinning like everything in the world was perfect. Now, that image seemed like a cruel joke. The reality was anything but. A few minutes later, the officer at the front reappeared, followed by the other who emerged from the back door. Both men wore grave expressions. The first officer, a tall woman with a steady voice, approached Susan. "Ma'am, we found someone inside," she said. Susan's breath hitched. where she managed to whisper, though she already knew the answer. The officer exchanged a look with her partner. "In your bedroom closet on the 3rd floor," the woman replied. "He's unarmed and cooperating, but he claims your sister let him in." Susan felt the ground shift beneath her. "Emily," she echoed, stunned. The other officer, a man with a notepad in hand, stepped forward. "Yes, ma'am." He said, "She said it was okay. She said I could stay until she got back." "He seems disoriented. So, we're bringing him to the station for questioning." He paused. "He doesn't have any ID. He told us he met your sister at a bus stop 2 days ago." Susan's heart pounded with a mix of rage and disbelief. Emily had taken a homeless man, someone with no ties to their family or her neighborhood, and left him alone in a townhouse full of valuables and, more importantly, a sleeping child. It was reckless beyond measure. "Thank you," Susan said, her voice barely above a whisper. She sank onto the curb, pulling Lily onto her lap. The girl's small body shook against her as she buried her face in Susan's neck. The officers stood a safe distance away, allowing Susan and Lily a moment to gather themselves. Behind them, the house, once a sanctuary, felt tainted by betrayal. After confirming that Lily was unharmed, the officers escorted the man whose clothes were ragged and whose face showed signs of fatigue toward the back of the police cruiser. He gave Susan a polite nod that only made her blood boil. How dare he act so calm after violating their home? She could still hear his words echoing in her mind. She said, "I could stay," when the patrol cars pulled away, leaving red and blue lights fading into the twilight. Susan rose slowly, dusting off her jeans. She looked up at the silent facade of her townhouse, every window now feeling like a cold eye staring back at her. She gathered Lily into her arms. "It's over." "Honey," she whispered, "I promise. You're safe now." Lily clutched her tighter, nodding against her mother's chest. Mrs. Delgado emerged from across the street, gently handing back Lily's backpack. "Are you both okay?" she asked. Susan managed a shaky smile. "We will be," she replied, her voice resolute. "Thank you." Mrs. Delgado. That evening, after the police had cleared the scene, Susan took Lily by the hand and walked inside, every step fraught with tension. She changed every lock on the doors, replaced the bedding, and opened all the windows to let in fresh air. She set up a motion-activated security light near Lily's bedroom window and installed a new home alarm system with extra sensors on every possible entry point. Later, as Lily sipped hot cocoa on the couch, still clutching her favorite teddy bear, Susan sat beside her. "I'm so proud of you," she said softly, brushing a strand of hair behind Lily's ear. "You were very brave." Lily looked up, her eyes wide. "I was scared, Mommy," she admitted, holding on tightly. "But I knew you'd come." Susan nodded, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. "I'm never leaving you with anyone unless I'm absolutely sure it's safe," she promised. Lily sniffled and snuggled closer. "Okay," she whispered. That night, Susan lay awake next to her daughter, listening to the steady tempo of Lily's breathing. The man had been taken away, and Emily's betrayal had cut deeply. But as she watched Lily drift into a restful sleep, Susan felt a fierce determination settle in her chest. She would do whatever it took to keep Lily safe, no compromises, no second chances, because there was no greater priority than protecting her little girl from a world that could be cruel and unpredictable. And tonight, at least, they were both home and together. Officer Rodriguez's heavy footsteps in the hallway felt impossibly loud to Susan as she stood on the sidewalk, Lily clinging to her side. Her daughter's small frame trembled with every echo, and Susan's heart pounded so fiercely she struggled to draw a steady breath. Moments ago, Susan had watched in disbelief as police officers swept through her house, through the rooms she had kept meticulously organized, through the living room where Lily's stuffed animals sat in a tidy row, and finally up the stairs to the closet in her own bedroom. Now. Officer Rodriguez emerged from the front door, flashlight in hand, followed by Officer Patel stepping out of the back entrance. Their eyes met hers, faces grave, and Susan felt as though the world had tilted off its axis. "Ma'am," Officer Rodriguez began in a calm, professional tone that did little to calm Susan's racing mind. "We found a man hiding in your bedroom closet on the 3rd floor." Susan's knees threatened to buckle. She forced herself to stand taller. "Is Lily okay?" she managed to whisper. The officer nodded. "She's safe, ma'am. We made sure she was never alone once we arrived." Relief and terror mingled in Susan's chest. Relief that Lily was unharmed. Terror that her little girl had been on her own with a stranger all night. Officer Patel, a younger man with a notepad, approached and offered more details. "He's unarmed, cooperative, and he claims your sister let him in. His name is Greg, mid-30s, no ID, no phone. He told us he met someone, your sister, at a bus stop 2 days ago. She brought him food, gave him a place to stay, and said he could sleep in the house until you returned." Susan's mind reeled. "My sister? Emily?" she asked, voice cracking. The officers exchanged glances. "Yes." "Ma'am," Officer Rodriguez confirmed. He said, "She said it was okay. She said I could stay here until she got back. We ran a background check. He's homeless, with prior arrests for trespassing and some past psychiatric evaluations, but no history of violence. Still, that doesn't make it any less dangerous." Tears welled in Susan's eyes as she thought of Lily lying upstairs, sound asleep, while this man hid mere feet away. The knowledge that Emily had actively invited him into their home felt like a betrayal so deep it was hard to comprehend. She wanted to call Emily, to demand an explanation right then and there. But Lily's small hand on her thigh reminded her of what mattered most, her daughter's safety and emotional well-being. Officer Patel spoke gently. "We want to take Greg to the station for further questioning. We'll also be filing a report. But that's up to you. We understand this is a family matter, and there's no requirement to press charges if you feel it's not necessary." Susan's chest felt tight. Press charges. The idea of putting her own sister in legal jeopardy was almost unthinkable. Yet what Emily had done had put Lily in harm's way. She exhaled slowly. "I need to make sure this doesn't happen again," she said. Voice steady despite the storm inside. "I want to file a full report, and I want to change the locks immediately. I can't take any chances." After the officers left with Greg, driving him away in the squad car's cage, Susan watched the red and blue lights fade into the distance. She carried Lily still in her pajamas across the street to Mrs. Delgado's house, where her neighbor had set up a blanket and offered warm milk. Lily pressed her face into Susan's shoulder, whispering, "I was so scared. Mommy." I heard him breathing. Susan's vision blurred with tears. "I know, baby," she whispered back. "You were so brave. You did exactly the right thing by staying quiet and waiting." When Lily felt secure in Mrs. Delgado's gentle embrace, Susan slipped back across the street to face the aftermath. The front door hung slightly ajar, the rug that usually lay straight now askew, as if someone had stumbled out in a hurry. She walked up the staircase, her footsteps deliberate, and reached the closet door, the very place where a stranger had lingered as her daughter slept. A wave of revulsion washed over her as she gently touched the doorknob. It felt colder than when they left, as though it held the echo of a nightmarish presence. Shaking, Susan retrieved her cell phone and dialed Emily's number for what felt like the 100th time. Straight to voicemail. She left a terse message. "Call me immediately. I know what happened, and the police have been here." There was no response. Susan tried again, sending a text. I know Greg was at the house. We need to talk now. Silence, anger, disappointment, and heartache coiled in her chest as she moved through the house. She stripped the sheets from her bed, tossing them into the washing machine, and pulled every curtain aside, letting the afternoon sun flood each room as if to cleanse the darkness. In Lily's bedroom, she replaced the pillow covers and washed her daughter's favorite blanket. In the hallway, she installed an extra motion detector and reprogrammed the alarm app on her phone. Every lock on every door was changed, and she ordered an additional security camera to cover the side yard. Later that evening, after Lily drifted into a restless sleep comforted by Susan's promise to keep her safe, Susan finally heard her phone buzz. It was a text from Emily. "I'm sorry. I just wanted to help Greg. He had nowhere to go. I thought I'd be back before Lily woke." Susan's jaw tightened. That help had been unforgivably reckless. She typed a single reply and deleted the conversation before reconsidering. "Don't contact me again. Do not try to see Lily. Ever." Pressing send, she felt the weight of both relief and sorrow. Over the next few days, Susan enrolled Lily in a child therapy program at the local elementary school, an effort to help her process the fear and confusion of that night. Each afternoon, she sat in the waiting room as Lily colored quietly, the counselor's soft voice guiding her through small drawings of safe spaces and trusting feelings. Meanwhile, Susan took a domestic violence seminar offered by a community center, learning not to judge herself for the choices Emily had made, but to channel her energy into creating an impregnable fortress around Lily's world. On the morning when Lily returned home from her first counseling session, her small hand found Susan's in the kitchen as they shared cereal. "I feel a little braver today," Lily said, stirring milk into her bowl. Susan's eyes brimmed with tears of relief, gratitude, and the fierce love that had carried her through the darkest hours. "That's my girl," she said, planting a gentle kiss on Lily's forehead. As they walked toward the school bus that afternoon, a new, sturdier lock clicking shut behind them, Susan resolved that no request, no familial bond, would ever again overshadow her responsibility as Lily's guardian. She had learned, with a jarring clarity, that love sometimes meant setting firm boundaries and choosing her daughter's safety over anything else. And though the memory of that night would linger a silent reminder in every shadow and creak, Susan felt a renewed sense of purpose. She would guard Lily's world with unwavering vigilance, knowing that a mother's instincts, once awakened, were the most powerful shield of all. I still couldn't believe Emily had left me in that house. Staring at the voicemail light blinking on my phone, I swallowed hard and pressed play. "Hey, Seuss." Emily's voice sounded casual, almost carefree, as if nothing catastrophic had happened. "I saw your messages. Look, I know you're probably freaking out, but can we please talk before you do something drastic?" Her words felt like a slap. I could still see Lily's frightened eyes as she watched that shadowy figure slip down the stairs in the middle of the night. I could still feel my daughter's small body trembling in my arms as Mrs. Delgado led her across the street. Emily had been supposed to keep Lily safe for one night, and instead, she'd invited a complete stranger into our home. Yet here she was, brushing off the gravity of it all. I dialed Emily's number, hands shaking. It rang twice before she picked up. "Susan." "Hey, I'm glad you called." "Elizabeth," I snapped, using her full name. "Where were you? Where were you when Lily was terrified because a total stranger was in our house?" There was a pause long enough to let the question hang between us, unforgiving and sharp. "I was at a friend's place," she finally said. "I needed a break from the chaos." "Chaos. You left my 6-year-old daughter alone with a man you barely knew, a man who was hiding in our closet all night." My voice wavered as fury and fear surged together. Emily sighed. "Look, I met him at the bus stop. He was homeless. Susan. I just felt sorry for him and thought I could help. He said he needed somewhere to crash until you got back. I didn't think it was a big deal. Lily was asleep. I felt bile rise in my throat. It wasn't your house. It wasn't your sister's life at risk. You didn't even think about how dangerous that was. He could have hurt her, or worse. I know. Okay, I get it, sounds bad. Emily's tone was defensive now, but he seemed nice, a little scared. Sure, but harmless. I swear I thought I'd be back before Lily woke up. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Meaning is irrelevant, I said, deliberately quiet so my voice wouldn't waver further. Your choice had consequences. Lily spent the night terrified, knowing someone she didn't know was watching her from the second-floor window. And when I came home, she refused to step inside. She was too scared to even reach for the doorknob. My sister was silent for a second when she spoke. Her voice had that irritating combination of guilt and defensiveness. I'm sorry if you think I'm irresponsible, but I was trying to do something good. I wanted to help him. I took a slow, steadying breath. Compassion doesn't override common sense. Emily, you gambled with my daughter's safety for the sake of a stranger you met 2 days ago. Well, he needed help, she insisted, as if that justified everything. I could feel my blood pressure spike. I imagined pulling the phone away from my ear so I wouldn't have to hear her voice minimize what she'd done. But I stayed, forcing myself to listen until I lost control. Do you understand what could have happened? He could have kidnapped her. He could have. He didn't, Emily interrupted. He didn't even try anything. That's not the point, I cut in. You let him in. You told him he could stay. You left the door unlocked. You basically handed him my bedroom closet with my daughter sleeping just down the hall. That wasn't harmless. Emily, it was reckless. I heard her inhale sharply on the other end. For a moment, it sounded like she might apologize. But instead, she said, You're making this sound like I was abusive or something. I just did what I thought was right. He was vulnerable. I shook my head, though she couldn't see it. If you were really responsible, you'd have asked me first. You'd have found another way to help. You'd have waited until Lily was with me. Instead, you chose to protect his comfort over my daughter's safety. There was a long pause, and I wondered if what I'd said had finally sunk in. When Emily replied, her voice was softer, almost pleading. I didn't know it would go this far. I never meant to scare Lily, and I miss her. Sus. I miss her so much. Hearing her say she missed Lily made my heart twist in a new way, part empathy for her lost bond with my daughter, part rage that her choices had put that bond at risk. I understand you miss her, I said, but missing someone isn't permission to endanger them. Right now, I can't trust you. Not with our home, not with my child. Please, she said, her voice breaking. Can we at least talk about this face to face? Please don't shut me out forever. My fingers tightened around the phone. I had to be clear, even if it meant causing her pain. No. Emily, you're not welcome here. Don't contact me or Lily again until I see genuine change, until you show me you can put her safety above everything else. Our relationship is over. I ended the call before she could respond again. But her plea, her casual dismissal turned desperate, echoed in my mind for several disgusted heartbeats. I put the phone down on the kitchen counter and pressed my forehead against my hands. My hands were still trembling slightly. Lily was upstairs, sleeping fitfully in my bed. I'd cleaned her room twice since returning, changed her sheets, aired out the blankets, even rearranged her stuffed animals to restore a sense of normalcy. I climbed the stairs quietly, tiptoeing into her bedroom. She was curled up under her pink fleece blanket, clutching her favorite unicorn doll. The moonlight shone softly through her window. and her breathing was slow but uneven. I sat on the edge of her bed and stroked her hair. "Sweetheart," I whispered, and she stirred, rubbing her eyes. "Mommy's here." She blinked up at me, sleep-clouded gaze turning to concern when she didn't see me smile. "Are you okay?" she asked, voice small and trembling. I kissed her forehead. "I'm okay now." I paused, collecting my composure. "Do you remember last night? When you saw the man in the window, I want you to know how proud I am of you for being so brave." She nodded, pressing her face into the pillow. "I was scared," she admitted. "But I remembered what you taught me if something feels wrong. I tell you." Her honesty made my throat tighten with love and protectiveness. "You did exactly right," I said, gently brushing her cheek. "And I'm here to make sure nothing like that ever happens again." She tilted her head, searching my face. "Will Aunt Emily still come visit?" My heart clenched. My little girl still missed her aunt. "She can't visit right now," I said softly, "but there's a family friend coming over to read you a bedtime story tomorrow." A faint smile flickered on Lily's lips. "Okay." That night, as I tucked her in and turned off the lamp. I thought about Emily's voice, how lightly she'd treated Lily's safety, and how quickly she'd tried to paper over it with apologies. My sister had chosen to help a stranger at the risk of abandoning her niece. I realized then that this breach of trust wasn't just reckless, it was irreparable. I left Lily's bedroom door ajar and sat in the hallway, listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing. I didn't know how long it would take for her or me to heal from this, but I knew one thing for certain. Love alone wasn't enough to protect my daughter. I would never again let guilt or family loyalty override what I knew deep in my heart was right. And if that meant severing ties with the last person I expected to betray me, so be it. I would do anything to keep Lily safe, because a mother's promise was stronger than any mistake. Mary Hart knew from the moment she held baby Abby in her arms that they shared a bond beyond blood. As an infant, Abby's eyes searched Mary's face for comfort after a childhood filled with upheaval. Mary vowed, "I will never leave you." Over the years, Mary adopted Abby officially, navigating paperwork, home studies, and sleepless nights together. There were moments when Abby's grief born from being separated from her birth mother would surface in fits of rage or silent withdrawal. Yet Mary stayed, gently guiding Abby through every tear, every angry outburst. She learned to recognize Abby's signals the way her shoulders tensed when she felt abandoned, or how she clutched her stuffed bear whenever nightmares came. When Abby hit her teenage years, she pushed Mary away, convinced that no one could understand her pain. Mary remembered those feelings of isolation all too well. She'd been abandoned once herself. Instead of giving up, Mary sat by Abby's bedside each night, reading stories until her daughter's breathing evened out. She celebrated Abby's small victories, a good grade, a new friend, a smile that lasted longer than usual, because she knew that healing happened one step at a time, in time. Abby began to trust that Mary's love was constant. Through late-night talks over cocoa, Sunday morning pancakes, and shared laughter at silly family movies, they rebuilt their lives. Today, Mary and Abby face challenges together: therapy sessions, new schools, the everyday ups and downs, but their connection is stronger than any obstacle. Their story proves that choosing to stay, choosing to love despite fear, creates a foundation no storm can shake. Life often presents moments when it's tempting to walk away, when challenges feel too big, when hurt is too deep, or when hope seems lost. But Mary and Abby's journey reminds us that staying, truly staying, can transform pain into strength. When we choose to remain present for someone, even through the darkest nights, we send an unspoken message: you are worth the effort. You are not alone. That assurance can spark healing that lasts a lifetime. To our cherished viewers, particularly those who've faced family struggles or felt the ache of separation, remember, love isn't measured by how easy it is, but by how steadfast you stay. Whether you're a grandparent reminding a grandchild they are safe, a friend listening when someone needs a shoulder, or a volunteer offering a hand to a stranger, your choice to remain can change everything. If Mary and Abby's story moved you, please leave a comment below sharing a moment when you chose to stay, even when it was hard. Your experiences can inspire others to keep faith and keep loving. And if you'd like more heartfelt stories that celebrate resilience, love, and genuine connection, click subscribe and join our community. Together, we'll explore the beauty of standing by one another, one story at a time.